Welcome to Down to Business with V, a show dedicated to bringing you actionable information to help protect you, your families, your businesses, and the community. I'm your host, V, and today we're discussing phishing, smishing, and social engineering. We've called in cybersecurity experts from the University of West Florida's Center for Cybersecurity to give you tips to keep your businesses and your families safe. And as always, we'll share what to do if you're a victim of fraud. Let's get down to business.
From Atlanta, Georgia, to becoming a United States Marine, to Washington, D.C., and every place in between, everybody calls me V. My goal is to bring you resources, education, and knowledge from sources you can trust that informs and protects to safeguard our families, our businesses, and the community. Now let's get down to business.
Welcome to Down to Business with V, a show dedicated to bringing you actionable information to help protect you, your families, your businesses, and the community. I'm your host, V, and today we're discussing phishing, smishing, and social engineering. And today we've called in an expert in cybersecurity from the UWF Center for Cybersecurity, Mr. Anthony Pinto. He is very, very busy. Mr. Pinto teaches graduate and undergraduate courses in computer science and software engineering. He joined the faculty at UWF after he earned his Master's of Science in Computer Science from UWF. Mr. Pinto, who spent 20 years on active duty with the United States Marine Corps, also has several years of experience in training in business-related software development and cybersecurity. He also coordinated UWF's successful effort to be designated a national security agency, Department of Homeland Security, National Center for Academic Excellence in Cyber Education. In addition, he's heavily involved in efforts to enhance cybersecurity education in the area, including being a mentor for Cyber Patriot, Cyberthon, as well as the faculty advisor for the UWF Cybersecurity, and coach for the Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition. You are busy, Mr. Pinto. His training also includes Wireshark Advanced Network Analysis, Black Hat Certification in Hacking by the Numbers Bootcamp, Hacking by the Numbers Black Ops, pen testing with Kali Linux, locking down Linux, and adaptive red team tactics. Highly credentialed. Welcome, Mr. Pinto. Thank you so much for being with us. We're so excited to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about what you do at UWF in addition to all of this.
My main role is a faculty member in the computer science department, which houses the bachelor's in computer science, a bachelor's in cybersecurity, a bachelor's in software development, as well as a master's in computer science and a master's in cybersecurity. So that's my main role. I'm also a faculty fellow at the Center for Cybersecurity, and I work with them on various projects. The Center of Academic Excellence aspect I work on. I've also worked with them for summer camps. They do a lot of outreach stuff, so I help them supply them with students, as I'm also the faculty advisor for the Cybersecurity Club, the Cybernauts is what we call it, that do competitions like one you mentioned.
Awesome. You're very, very busy there. Thank you for everything you're doing to raise up this next generation of cyber experts.
I hope so. Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Well, today we're talking about social engineering, what it is, and we're also talking about the phishing and smishing, what that is and how it plays into social engineering. So for those who might not know what social engineering is, give us an overview and some insight into that.
So social engineering is just a way to find out information about a person or an entity to use it against them in some way. The more information I can find out about you, the better crafted that thief can be. And you can go back to the old Westerns where guys would try to con people out of their money based on what they knew about the town or what they knew about them and their habits and things like that. And it's basically the same thing. And they use different tactics like you mentioned, phishing, which is usually emails they send you, and people have seen those all the time. You know, some prince wants to enter the United States but needs you to do some things with his bank, and he'll give you money, or you won a lottery but you have to apply, you have to give them money first or something like that. Sort of an offshoot of that is spear phishing, which is really social engineering. So spear phishing is targeting you as an individual. Like they would say, okay, she works for a TV show, she's a host, she works here, so she knows these types of things, she belongs to this type of organization, she lives in this part of town, maybe they even know what kind of car you drive based on Facebook or something like that, who your family members are, and they will target you. They may send you an email from some accredited journalist organization that you might react to because you think it's real.
Yeah, that's the true definition of social engineering.
Right, that's a spear phishing. Right, spear phishing, where the phishing is more just like a massive thing to hopefully get somebody to bite.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about whale phishing. Explain to our viewers what the whale phishing is and how they target executives in these social engineering tactics.
Yeah, so they're looking for people with a lot of money, right? And they're looking possibly to get them in compromising positions or find out information they don't want other people to know, right? It's almost like blackmail in a lot of cases, right? You know, whatever, if they're married and they're doing things outside of their marriage, or they're involved with finances, you know, that maybe they shouldn't be, maybe they've made investments in something and they knew that they talked to this other person that could possibly be of interest to the SEC, you know, related to like insider trading and stuff like that. So they try to gather information. It's not that hard to gather information about people anymore, especially prominent people, because they're out there, they're on social media. A lot of people use Twitter and stuff like that. And that's probably pretty lucrative, right, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Malicious actors are after the money.
Right, and it's not always money, too. It could be just disgrace. It could be an activist or hacktivist, as they call them, right, that they go out and just want to discredit or have a social agenda or something like that.
Yeah, I love that you brought that piece into it.
Okay.
To discredit someone or, you know, to accomplish some other sort of agenda.
Yeah, political gains, all kinds of things like that. Sure.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So I know that you and I, in our preliminary discussion, we talked about some of the real life stories of social engineering. Share a story with us that might relate to our audience.
There was one I heard recently that was kind of new, where they targeted more elderly people that weren't super familiar with things, with like a phone call that sounded like it was from a bank fraud department, and they mentioned that their account had been compromised, and they believe it was someone from the bank that was doing it, and they were investigating their own employees at a local branch kind of thing, and the FBI was involved. And they convince you to go and take your money out, pull your money out of the bank to secure it, and they have you, there's some ATMs that allow you to put money in crypto accounts, and they give you that information, say, well, put it in our secure crypto account, and this way they won't be able to get to it, you know, and don't go in the bank and say anything to anybody because, you know, we're not sure who's involved. And there are actually people that have fallen for that and lost $10,000, $15,000 because the crypto account they put it in was not, the FBI wasn't coming the next day, even though they told them it was. And the story that I heard, this person was so convinced that even when people were telling her that this isn't fake, she still believed it. No, they were very convincing. They knew a lot about me. They knew a lot of information about where I lived and who my family was and who my grandkids were and stuff, because they tracked her and they looked at what her record was, where she worked, you know, anything from social engineering. So it was a very targeted spear phishing attack. And the issue with, I think, what the viewers might say is, well, I'm not going to fall for that. I'm smarter than that. The hackers are very intelligent, and they focus on emotions. And they try to either get you upset, scared, greedy, angry. Because what happens when you're emotional? your reasoning slows down or goes away, and you don't think things clearly, right? If you're angry or greedy or scared, you're going to do things that you wouldn't normally do, and that's how they get people. Now they try it on a bunch of people, but it works.
Wow.
So you have to be very, very, very careful. Whenever you're reaching in your wallet to get money, whatever that is, think, why am I giving this person money? I mean, I tell my sons that all the time. Like, people can say what they want to you, and you're reaching in your wallet, that's when you think, who is this person? Why am I giving them money?
Excellent advice. Excellent
Hope so.
advice. Yes, for sure. And you know, it's kind of, not even kind of, it's disturbing that malicious actors are formulating these elaborate schemes against, you know, any age group, but especially the elderly. We did a show over the summer talking specifically about elder fraud.
Yeah, yeah.
And the FBI statistic was that it was $1.7 billion was taken in 2021 alone from elderly citizens.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It really, really is. And the scenario that you presented, someone might think that, I mean, it sounds pretty legitimate with the exception of put your money in this crypto account.
But people don't know what that is, so they think they just don't have, you know, they don't have the knowledge. You know, there was stuff like that's happened before. You've probably heard of the IRS scam where they call you up and they tell you they're from the IRS fraud department. And they target the elderly because they're afraid and they don't know. But I was also talking to a colleague who said they also target immigrants from other countries that are here, and they don't understand how the IRS works. So they don't know that the IRS won't call. Maybe their country was a little, the government was a little more powerful or would do things like that, and they fall for it as well. So it's more of an ignorance than it is, elderly as well, but also people that just aren't paying attention or don't know.
Very sad
It is.
seeing that being carried out. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more with our expert guest today, Mr. Anthony Pinto, about social engineering, how you can avoid it, and what to do if you're a victim. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Down to Business with V. I'm your host, V, and today we are discussing phishing, smishing, and social engineering. We have in the studio with us today from the UWF Center for Cybersecurity, Mr. Anthony Pinto. Welcome again, Mr. Pinto.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. So we've been talking about this social engineering, the phishing, the smishing, the spear phishing, the whale phishing, what all of it means. Can you just recap for our audience very briefly what social engineering is and how each of those things is used as a tactic?
So social engineering is just using information about people, about you or a business to attack. So phishing or spear phishing is usually through email. Smishing is usually a text. You know, in fact, I've been getting texts recently about this bill I paid and I'm up to date. And if I want to check it, click here. But I don't know what they're talking about. You know, it's not anything. It's some weird address. So I don't know where it's coming from. And then let's see, smishing, phishing. What was the other one?
Spear phishing, whale phishing.
Whale phishing is executives, you know, that kind of thing. And then, so they all fall under social engineering.
And these malicious actors are using these tactics to target an individual.
Right, to get money, to discredit, possibly blackmail, identity theft. But there's other types, hacktivists, political, trying to get political information, terrorist type of activities and things like that.
Yeah, I love that you took it beyond money and ran the gamut with
it doesn't have to be just money. Terrorists use the internet all the time to gather information about us, about our government, about the way the police work, about the way businesses work, about the way airlines work, you know, and stuff like that. Police tactics, law enforcement tactics.
Yeah, very unfortunate, but it's good for us to know these things so that we are aware of what's happening and we can be proactive instead of reactive.
Definitely.
Yeah, in these scenarios. So as we're talking about this social engineering, we are looking at ways that, individuals are targeted versus how businesses are targeted. We know businesses are made up of individuals, employees, but let's talk a little bit about these tactics against individuals, how they play out. You kind of went over a little bit of, that in the first segment, but let's talk a little bit more in depth about how individuals are being targeted in these social engineering scenarios.
So, like I said, if they're targeting, if they're spear phishing, as I said, looking at you specifically, they're going to find out as much information about you as possible. For example, and I heard a story of a person that was a professional, like a doctor or lawyer, and so he was working on a personal computer at home, luckily, and he looked at an email from his licensing organization that had came from the right email address and had all the right graphics and the right signatures and looked official. It said, one of your clients has claimed impropriety, sexual harassment, misconduct, and we'd like to hear your response. The charges are in a Word document attached. Well, as soon as they clicked the Word document, it set off a series of things and basically ransomwared or encrypted his computer. At that point, there was not much he can do. But his smart man felt relatively young, so it wasn't like he didn't know about this stuff, but it just got to his emotions, like, oh my God, what is this? Click. And then probably as soon as he clicked it, he realized, what did I do? Right? So the only thing you could do, luckily he wasn't connected to his work network, so all he really had to do was delete that, reinstall things, and when he went back to work, just reload any data that he needed. Because data is what you need to protect and store, not the systems themselves.
Absolutely.
So that's how they work with individuals. They find out as much as they can about you, and they get you emotionally somehow to do what they want you to do.
Yeah, it's so sinister.
It is.
So sinister. Last season, we talked a little bit about social engineering on one of the episodes and shared how the malicious actors will stalk social media accounts, Facebook,
Sure.
Twitter, Instagram, whatever, to glean this information. Talk a little bit more about that and about what people are sharing on social media and how that's being used against them.
Yeah, because people are very open, a lot of people. I mean, they just talk about everything in their life on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and all those other things, right? And so just what I was talking about before is the more information they can gather, you never know what piece of information. It's like a puzzle. They'll grab this, not even sure why they're going to need that, but they'll start, and then they'll just put together a campaign to come against you. So you really should trust your friends on there. A really quick story. It's not really social engineering, but we do a summer camp, and we did a summer camp with middle school kids. And one of our teaching assistants, he was a nice young man. He was a football player, and he was talking to them and telling them about his account. And these were middle school kids. So they found his account on social media, his Instagram. They pulled down pictures. They went to his friends. They found his girlfriend. They connected to his girlfriend. They were pulling pictures down and putting all the kind of graphics on them and reposting them and stuff. And he was having fun with it. He was okay with it. And he said it was kind of his fault. He didn't secure it. And after that, he did. But these are just middle school kids. Yes. And they just dove in and just found out all this stuff. I think they even got to his parents and stuff like that. Nothing malicious. It was all in fun. But how easy it was. So if I'm really interested, I can find out lots of things. So you got to be really careful about that. Plus, what a lot of college students don't realize is a lot of businesses look for your Facebook and those kind of pages when you're applying for work to see what kinds of things you put out there.
Yes.
And so you have to be careful about that. Or if you're in our field, cybersecurity, you want to work for the government, you need a security clearance.
Yes.
And so if social media is explored and they see things that could possibly affect that.
Absolutely. I always say keep your social media clean. There's nothing that, If you don't want it to come up 20, 30
Right.
years later,
Most
don't
people
do
my age say, thank God there was no cameras and social media when we were young.
it. Absolutely. Very interesting, though, like just how even the kids were able to, I mean, and they're proficient at this.
Right, they're
social
pretty
media.
proficient at a lot of things. They really had a good time at that camp, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, that's our next generation of
Yes, it is.
cybersecurity experts.
Yes,
So
they are.
very, very interesting. So we talked a little bit about, what it looks like against businesses and small businesses as well as individuals. Are there any other stories that you could share with our audience that might impact them or bring this subject of social engineering home for them to make it real?
Well, when you mentioned some of those courses that I went to at Black Hat, one of them was taught by a gentleman who at the time worked for a pretty large international pen testing company. So pen testing, penetration testing is like a security test, right? You hire them and they try to find holes in your system and, just like a security check of a building, right? They go around and make sure your doors are locked. This is in cyber. Right, so it was I believe he said it was a hedge fund type company, a pretty big company, and they had just gone through a big social engineering campaign where they spent a lot of money on teaching people how to avoid social engineering. So this guy was pretty smart. He was a hacker from a young kid, right? And so he went online and found a journal, like a web journal, and got all their credentials and crafted an email. And his thought was, I'll make it from a woman. I'll create a Gmail account or an email account from a woman because people trust women more than men, just in general. And he put all the right logos and everything on it, found the PR people for this company and sent all three of them an email that said, attached is a spreadsheet. We talked to a disgruntled employee that just recently left, and it implicates the CEO in embezzlement and fraud. We're going to run this story on Friday. Would you like to comment?
Wow.
And when they clicked the link, he had a back door that basically sent his computer access, because you can do, it's called a reverse shell. So it allowed him direct access to their system. And he said they must have passed it around through email or through a thumb drive because he was getting multiple requests. He had to spin up a couple of other servers to handle the requests to get into their system. From that point, he was able to pivot and get all the data that he wanted. And in fact, they said that they sent him an email a while later and said, we can't open this. There's something wrong with this attachment. They didn't even realize it. He said, oh, here's a PDF, which had malicious software in it as well. And so that was just, he said, so that's what he did. When he presented his stuff, the CEO was really upset. He spent a lot of money. The IT people were not happy with him for the way he did it. But that's what hackers will do. And this guy was actually a hacker before he went legit.
Yeah, wow. That is pretty extraordinary. And thank goodness for people that have this knowledge, this savvy, this expertise that are using it to help. Pen testing is great for just that reason, to show you the vulnerabilities, whether it's in systems or whether it's in people. And, around here we preach that everybody in the organization needs to be cyber savvy and know what's happening out there.
That's the weak link is us. Systems are, with AI and the different structures that they put on systems, they're hard to break directly. The weak link is getting through people.
Yeah, the weakest link in the chain. Yep. Well, we are so excited to have you with us. In the last minute that we have in the show, if someone has been a victim of fraud, have been compromised in any way, how would you suggest that they go about handling a situation like this?
If it's fraud, like identity theft, certainly make a police report, contact the police, make sure you contact your banks and things like that, credit cards, see what you can do about that. One of the things you can do is there are different organizations, like I have an organization that runs like an insurance, it's not very expensive, but they handle the identity theft back end, which is the difficult part. They'll teach you how to stop it, but the big part is fixing everything. That takes hours. So they'll put a caseworker on there and either show you how or do things for you. contact the banks, contact the credit cards, contact utility companies, do all the things you need to do to fix this, and just kind of go from there.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Anthony Pinto from the UWF Center for Cybersecurity. We thank you so much for your expertise and all that you and the team at UWF are doing to keep us cyber secure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'd like to thank our guest, the esteemed professor, Mr. Anthony Pinto from UWF's Center for Cybersecurity, for sharing your insight and expertise with our audience today. We certainly do appreciate you. If you have been a victim of fraud, or a data breach, or account compromise, or any other type of cybercrime, be sure to contact your local police or the FBI at ic3.gov. Also, be sure to visit our sponsors, Vicar Group, LLC, business consultants for Generation U at www.vicargroup.com. If you'd like to sponsor the show, or if you have show ideas, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, be sure to visit our site at dtbwithv.com. I'd like to thank you for tuning in today, and I'd also like to thank our crew for making today's show possible. Hannah, Eric, Peter, Stephen, Suzanne, and Doug, thank you so much for all that you do to make our show possible. We certainly do appreciate you. This is Down to Business with V. I'm your host, V, and we'll see you next time.